Can you believe we have already made it to week 4? Now, I want to refresh a few things because there's a little bit of confusion with some people. Last week, we were looking at social aspects and we were looking at those issues, which are social issues that are very meaningful for you. And I loved hearing about all these different issues. My one concern was in some cases, people talked more about the social issues and weren't focusing on the sustainability issues. I'm not trying to discredit the sustainability or the social issues because those are incredibly important. And again, I love seeing your heart in those. But I want you guys to not forget the sustainability part too. I'm going to be looking at that too this week. Remember, if we're talking about something being sustainable, it has to help people as far as social justice, which is what we talked about last week, has to make sure that it makes business sense. Quite frankly, if we keep doing something and it makes companies go out of business, then it's not going to be sustainable. It's not going to be long term. We all know whether we want to save the earth or not, we also need to pay our own bills. So money is very important as well. And then the environment as well. Make sure you don't forget that environmental component, that if we destroy the earth that we need in order to survive in an attempt to make money or have social justice, then we're not going to find that sustainable solution. Think in terms of those 3 circles. I'll post a little picture reminding you, showing that it's where all 3 of those different things intersect that makes things a sustainable thing. So keep that in mind as you pick your companies this week. Keep that in mind as you pick your social issues this week as well, that we're looking for something that incorporates all 3 of those. And some of your choices last week, unfortunately, I didn't quite see how they actually fit in the sustainability part. So let's start making sure that we get all of that. This week, we're going to go on again, talking more about the business angle because we do need all of these things. Businesses are closely related to what we need. And while we say it's not our job, it's the business that's being green or not, we make our decisions and we vote for what we want every single day and every single purchase that we make. So when you buy something, you're telling that company that that is something that you want and that you approve of, which is some amazing buying power because you can actually start making those big differences by making your choices. Now, when we look at world business and sustainability, we are seeing a lot of companies move towards sustainability for different reasons. Some are doing it because they care about sustainability, like some of the companies that you guys talked about. Patagonia is one that I can think of off the top of my head, who has that mission to be sustainable. And others, honestly, are being sustainable because they understand it's going to help their bottom line. So when we start looking at it, how can a company have more sustainability? Some is, and we look at the main areas, sustainable sourcing. They're getting sources from a renewable resource. So maybe they're saying, well, here's one where we'll talk about something that did naughty, saying we're using recycled plastics in our bottles so that they're actually trying to do something like that in order to reduce waste, or using recycled paper in order to do packaging. Those are some ways where we can actually do the sourcing. Also, if you look at companies like Starbucks, which gets a percentage of their coffee from sustainable sources from small businesses, and trying to bring those things in as well and help those companies. Also, sustainable production. That's where we see a lot of companies where they'll say, listen, we're putting solar panels on our roofs so that we're actually using solar energy rather than coal fired energy in order to do our manufacturing. Sustainable packaging, I mentioned that as far as recyclable, biodegradable packaging. And packaging science is actually a whole field trying to figure out how to use the least amount of packaging to protect the products as much as possible. And of course, transportation and logistics. And I know a few of you are even in that area, so you know this better than I. If you can decrease the amount of gas that's wasted, we're going to start having a more sustainable product. And some companies like UPS put in some systems where they decided when doing logistics, they said all trucks can only turn right. They weren't allowed to turn left unless absolutely necessary. And by having them turn right, that was less time spent at stop signs. And therefore, they saved actually a ton of money as well as gasoline by rerouting all of their trucks more efficiently. So that's how we start looking at things like that. Or hybrid vehicles. That also makes a big difference. Um, so when we start looking at sustainability, there's 2 main different areas we look at it with business: red versus black sustainability. And it basically looks at what the intention of the company is. Is the company intending to reduce their environmental footprint in order to increase business because they really just want to increase business? And that's red sustainability versus black sustainability, where the mission is actually being sustainable and prioritizing environmental and social issues over making money, and those ones are helping that way. Now, in truth, let's be serious. Any business that is doing sustainability is good. That's a good thing. We want to promote that. But we have to understand that people are doing it for different reasons. And obviously, they kind of go back and forth against one another. Um, Now, we also need to remember that we're looking at people and the importance of people and social capital. Are we actually making sure that people trust us, trust our product? And that can make a big difference because it's the people who are the consumers. So many companies are trying to be more socially responsible in order to actually increase customer loyalty, in order to increase their sales. So we are looking at it from different angles, but again, it's all going toward that same mission. Now, one thing that has been talked about for years is the concept of greenwashing. The concept of greenwashing is basically pretending that you're greener than you actually are. And when we look at greenwashing, it literally can be as simple as packaging the material in green paper and saying, look, we're green. And do people fall for that? Yes, they do. In some cases, it can be just saying, no, 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 this is good for the environment. Or in other cases, they could downplay the bad things they're doing. One example I can think of a few years ago is some chip packaging, which they said was biodegradable. And they said, here, buy these chips because they're in a biodegradable container. When in truth, the only way that those chip bags could biodegrade is if you left them sitting out in the sun. However, most garbage, as we know, gets piled up and covered. And so none of those were biodegrading at all. It was they were biodegradable in specific conditions, which probably would never happen. That is greenwashing or calling themselves green. There are some products, and I don't want to call them out, who have green in the name who are not actually green. I do always suggest taking a look at an organization called Environmental Working Group, or EWG. And if you go to that website, it actually kind of goes through how environmental things are and how safe they are. I will tell you, EWG is harsh. They allow very few things to get through. So look at your products and take a look at them, and you might go, oh my God, nothing I use is sustainable. When in truth, they might be a little bit better. I think EWG has very, very harsh conditions. So take a look at all those different things. But then there's other things like Clorox Greenworks, which actually is pretty green when it says it's got 99.6% sustainability or clean ingredients. That is actually true. And ironically, that last little percent is the color green. They couldn't figure out a way to have sustainable colored green, but there's very little bit of green actually in Greenworks products. Other companies, because they know about greenwashing, are trying to avoid it. So some are being very transparent and honest, and some are not even telling people what the green things they're doing because they're afraid people will pick on them for not being green enough. So we need to start looking at that. But if something says they're 100% recycled, I know Windex just got slammed this year for it, but they said it was all ocean plastics, which was not plastics from the ocean. Volkswagen got in trouble because they said they had cleaner emissions, when in truth they had just managed to create a little machine which tricked the machine into saying they had cleaner emissions. Clean diesel fuel does not exist. But start looking at all these different things. Are the companies being forward? Are they being honest about things? Do they have social responsibility? That's what we want to look at. And that's what I want you to look at this week with the companies you choose. Pick a company you interact with. Maybe it's a place you shop regularly. Maybe it's your own company. Take a look to see how environmental they are. Are they really following those policies? Or do they just have a sustainability policy on paper because they want to bring in your business? Take a good look. See if they're greenwashing. Make sure that you're saying, are they showing good, not only environmental responsibility, but social responsibility? Are they treating their employees well? All of these things start making a big difference. So I hope you really enjoy kind of taking this to that next pillar. Remember, when we look at the business pillar, we look at the social pillar, we look at the environmental pillar. All three of those pillars need to be involved when we're starting to talk about one of these solutions. But I think you can really start seeing, and I'm loving seeing what you guys are saying in the discussion about where you see sustainability in your life. And please bring in personal examples. Bring in stuff that you're using in your own house and say, am I being sustainable and should I reconsider and have a more sustainable product? in the future. So I hope you really